Hey guys, this is our third and last week in the We series. Today we're going to be talking about up close, and the bottom line is this, that we learn about God through community. I want to share with you a little story about an experience that I've had recently with my small group. And if you're anything like me, when you hear small group, it triggers maybe different thoughts. For some of you, it's really good times at a friend's house, going through a study like this. For others of you, it's maybe been a little bit more of a rocky start with small group. You're just not sure, if you connect and just trying to find that right fit. And I want you to know that that's okay. That part of us living in community and growing together with one another is not always a smooth transition. And I've been there. I get that. I understand. I've been on both sides. I've been in groups where it's just a great fit from the beginning, where we plug in and get connected. And I've been in other groups where I've wondered, God, is this really where you have me? Is this really, what you want me to be involved with this group? But I want to share with you an experience that I had when I sort of looked at it a different way. My wife and I had been asked to be part of a small group at our friend's house, and we knew that couple, but we weren't sure about the other people that were in the group. We didn't really know them very well, and we kind of wondered, if this was really going to be the right place. And we went for the first Thursday night, and we realized right away that this is where God wanted us to be. We were going through a DVD series. We would watch a DVD and then we would talk about it, and we did that for several weeks. And then we finally got to a time where in our group we realized that God was calling us as a group to something more, to really get our hands dirty and get out in the community. And so we spent some time that Thursday night praying a little bit about how God might use us as a group to reach out in our community. And I don't know if your group has ever prayed that prayer, but it's a real dangerous one, because what I've experienced is that when you pray that kind of prayer, God will ask you to go, and He'll call you to do something. And so we weren't quite sure what that looked like. We weren't sure what God would have us do, so we spent some time just praying and trying to get a feel for how we might be used in our community. And so what happened is that God ended up calling us to be involved with an African refugee family that's living in the Manchester area. I'm not sure if you guys know, but we have quite a few African refugee families, and also other refugee families that are living in the Manchester area. What happens is that there's an agency that places these families in different locations in the United States, and Concord and Manchester happen to be two cities where they're placed. And there's some organizations that will help them to find a job and transition into the American life. But it's a completely different life. Things are more expensive. It's hard to find jobs. The kids have to transition into schools where they might not even speak the English language very well. Or in our case, what we found is that the kids in the family were the ones that spoke English better for the parents. So they would do a lot of translating for the parents, and it creates a very difficult transition for these families. So we found ourselves in the midst of helping a family transition to the United States, to Manchester, New Hampshire. We found ourselves moving them from their apartment that was filled with bugs, that was just a very, very difficult living situation, into a new apartment that was cleaner, just to get them sort of a fresh start. And we realized a lesson that I'll probably never forget as we helped this family. And that lesson was that we wouldn't have been able to do this alone. I wouldn't have been able to go and help this family and move them into a new apartment and transition. But together, as a group, as the 9 of us helped this group, we were so much better together. We were able to help this family move from one apartment to another. We were able to help them transition to the Manchester area. As a group, we were able to do that because we were together. And as you guys are going through this series, and we've been talking a lot about what it means to be in community. And we've talked a little bit about the difference between as individuals and communities, and how God can use us as a community together. I really want you to maybe be thinking about what's something that your group might be able to do together. Maybe here in our own community, maybe it's just simply saying, God, what can you use us for? And just see what He'll do, because I think you'll be surprised. I want to share with you some scripture. We're going to start in the book of John, and this is from John 17, verses 20 through 23. And this is Jesus' prayer for future believers. And we're going to talk a little bit about the community in here. It says, I am praying not only for those disciples, but also for those who will ever believe in me because of their testimony. My prayer for all of them is that they will be one, just as you and I are one. Father, just as you are in me and I am in you, so they will be in us, and the world will believe that you sent me. I have given them the glory you gave me, so that they may be one, as we are. I and them, and you and me, all being perfected into one. Then the world will know that you sent me, and will understand you love them as much as you love me. Those are the words of Jesus in John 17, verses 20 through 23. And there's that real community focus. Another verse I want to take us back to is in the book of Matthew. And this is Matthew chapter 22, verses 37 through 39. And this is Jesus' response to a question that a few religious leaders had asked him about the greatest commandment. There was a group in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, who were a group of religious leaders who really thought that they had it all together. And they really thought they understood the scriptures inside and out. And they did. They had a great understanding. But the problem was that they hadn't made the transition from the head knowledge to the heart. They just weren't living it out. And so they were constantly challenging Jesus with questions. And here's one of his replies to a question that they asked. They asked him about the greatest teaching. They said, if you could sum up for us what the greatest of all your teaching is, what would it be? And here's Jesus' response. You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all of your mind. This is the first and the greatest commandment. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. All of the other commandments and all of the demands of the prophets are based on these two commandments. Jesus was asked to sum up all of his teachings, and they asked him, what's the greatest of all of it? And he says, number one is love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind. And the second, he said, is equal. Love your neighbor as yourself. Oh,